Hi, this is Matt Welsh of Spiritual Media Blog, and today I'm going to be interviewing Jerry Wennstrom. And Jerry has led quite an interesting life. In his 20s, he was a rising star in the art world of New York, but at the age of 29, he made a decision to destroy his art and spend the next 10 years wandering and listening and really just trusting that the grace of God, the universe, his spirit, would really guide him to wherever he needed to go. And he wrote about it in a book called The Inspired Heart, which I read and really enjoyed and got a lot out of, and it's available at thehandsofalchemy.com. But right now, to start off, we have Jerry on the line with us, and I'm just kind of curious, Jerry, what prompted your decision initially to destroy your art and start your journey?
Creativity. And whatever we do, I think we all tap into some form of creativity, whether we're raising children or doing art or creating a business. And what you find is that the creative spirit demands more and more of us. And I feel like at that time, being in the confines of the studio situation, which was a kind of safe environment to explore and do what I did as an artist, I feel I reached the limit of that as a venue in a certain way, and I got to the place where art no longer served me in the way that it had. I felt like inspiration was demanding something more of me. At some level, I felt like I really had mastered the smallness of that studio world, and it was at that point that I felt something was stirring, and I just wasn't sure where life was taking me, and I stopped painting for the first time for a month. And I did nothing but fasted, and I read A Course in Miracles, and I just really took the books in. I really gave myself to it. And it was after a month, it became very clear to me that I could keep doing what I was doing as an artist, but it felt like a fear-based choice. Or I could give myself to what I sensed was that greater calling, that greater inspiration, which was to let it all go and in a certain sense become the inspiration that I was dabbling in the studio. And on the strength of that intuitive sense, and that's all it was because it promised nothing. I mean, it was a ridiculous thing to do, to let go of the physicality of it as an artist, especially since it was such a complete identity for me. I had an enormous body of work. But on the strength of that just intuitive sense that this is the greater moment of creativity, if I could give myself to it, I destroyed the work and I gave everything I owned away, and I lived for the next 15 years without making money or even hardly touching money.
I think that everybody, and I know myself included, we all get those callings, those intuitive senses, and in some sense, they can be easy and exciting to follow. For example, maybe we have an idea to start a business or reconnect with a family member or a friend, but for you, it was a pretty dramatic change in your life. Did you ever question that intuition or that calling and think to yourself, like I sometimes struggle with too, is just trusting that intuition, that calling? And did you ever have any doubts? I mean, how do you know for certain that you can trust in that voice, especially when it feels like you're changing your lifestyle so dramatically?
Yes, well, in most instances when we make decisions, it really doesn't matter a whole lot what we're deciding on. It feels like it does, and we often worry more than we need to. But there are just these pivotal, transformational moments. A Course in Miracles calls it a choiceless choice. We come up against a place where everything has come of age, everything we thought we were, everything we thought we were doing, our identity as a human being on the planet, all of the best that we thought we were as an ego, as a will, as an intelligence, comes up against this place. And to use my favorite quote by Yogananda, to set out on any holy purpose and to die along the way is to succeed. We come up against a kind of place of metaphoric death where it doesn't feel necessarily like a choice. It doesn't feel like we have the kind of luxury to even entertain doubt. I mean, I think at those moments, doubt becomes more of an obstacle where it just sort of disempowers the moment, and you know you just can't go there. So it just simply is not a luxury of possibility. We all come up against moments like that, and that's how it was for me. It wasn't as easy to go against what I sensed was the greater calling.
Did you have any expectations, like as far as how long you're going to be doing this, what you're going to get from this? Or did you have any hopes or expectations or desires, like if I do this, this will happen, I'll grow, I'll meet this person? Did you have any sort of expectations about what might happen?
Only at an intuitive level. I mean, reasonably speaking, it made absolutely no sense. Art in the late 70s was God in New York, and to go against the place where everyone agreed that this is the thing to be doing as a young artist at that time, it didn't make that kind of sense. So in terms of what I expected, I love what Yogananda said, and it's pretty outrageous for him to have said this, but there's a level of truth to it. And it was a kind of metaphoric death, and I'm not comparing it to the Christ story, but Yogananda says about Christ, he says, personally, I don't think he would have walked into his death if he didn't know he was going to be saved. At some level, it felt like the most creative of all possibilities, although reasonably it promised nothing. It looked like nothing. It felt like nothing. I mean, it really was a kind of metaphoric death because it was the death of everything I thought was me, my identity, everything. Well, it was a sense of something greater.
I guess from what I'm hearing, it was a sense that you would be connected on a spiritual level much greater than you'd ever been before. You would have a connection with the grace of God, the universe, your spirit, however you want to define it, at a much greater level. Is that a fair understanding?
It is, and also in terms of art, I felt like it was a leap into the most sublime, formless expression that I could possibly give myself to. I mean, and there was the element of me as artist. I think it felt more like becoming the inspiration, where it wasn't just contained in a work of art or in the safety of the studio. It would become a way of life, so that, that connection that you speak of would be there. You no longer have to go out there like a beggar trying to get your moment of inspiration, but you would be at one with the process. That's what it felt most like to me. And it proved to be true. I mean, it proved to be the most important thing I've ever done with my life. And the defining moment of that decision, of that leap into the void, was at the time there was a film being made about my life in art. In the middle of it is when I did all of this, and when the film crew came, the art was all gone, and they were just shocked. I mean, they had invested a lot of time and money into this film, and it was about my art, so now, what is it all about? But I felt so inspired by what I had done that I was able to talk about it, and they filmed that and decided to include that into the film, which in fact gave the film its power, to have that kind of grand finale at the end, which was completely unexpected by everyone, certainly me. And when the film was shown, I really felt like it was the most powerful night of my life. I felt all of the energy and love and attention that went into those works of art. I feel like I became that evening, and I think that was what I was looking for. It was a complete experience of being the inspiration rather than doing it or having it expressed as a work of art or something literal. It was a way of being, and that way of being has carried my life to this point. And incidentally, I became more known as an artist for destroying my art than for creating it.
I thought that was just one of the most inspiring things about your story from what I read. It's just a complete commitment to just be in that state of being and trust. And again, I think it's something that everybody tries to shoot for. For me, at least, there's always sort of maybe like a lingering fear, like, okay, is the world going to provide for me? And I guess maybe in your circumstance, I mean, how did you go about the basic necessities of life? I mean, how did you get food? How did you get shelter? You were on this journey of spiritual transformation, but at the same time, you still need food and shelter. I mean, how did that come about for you?